The world's most dangerous recluse spider might be living in your house right now. It sounds terrifying and maybe ridiculous, but it's absolutely true. The Chilean recluse, the third deadliest spider on Earth by confirmed human kills, has learned to move in with us, into offices, schools, and even our homes, putting the lives of millions of people at risk. A bite from this arachnid can cause gruesome necrotic wounds and even shut down your organs as your cells are ripped apart, sometimes killing people in a matter of hours. But the really scary part is that they're now beginning to spread around the world. We have to figure out a way to coexist with these deadly new roommates. And that starts by answering a very important question. Why is the Chilean recluse choosing to live with people in the first place? Today, we're going to show you why they're here, what they want from us, and what you can do about it. My name is Harrison, and this is Evan. We're twin brothers on a mission to tell the stories of the most extreme animals on Earth. And as part of our project to figure out what the most dangerous animals on the planet really are, we've come to the brutal Atacama Desert of Chile to meet this deadly spider for ourselves and experience the conflict firsthand. To do that, though, we have to actually catch a recluse. But luckily for us, our friend Spencer just spotted a huge one.
Recluse!
There it is. Container, quick. That's a huge... Is that even a Leda?
Yeah, it is.
That's massive!
That's a Leda?
Nice.
Yeah.
This is the Chilean recluse, the deadliest of all brown recluse spiders, which is pretty intense. But the only way that we're gonna be able to show you the real story of this animal is to get it out of this container and into our hands properly. These are always the tense moments in these handling experiments.
All right.
There it is. Nice. That is the Chilean recluse on my bare skin. Look at that spider. This is actually a huge individual. I have to say, this is probably the largest recluse of any species that we've ever encountered. And for it to be the deadliest of them all is particularly noteworthy because he could absolutely break skin. The venom of the Chilean recluse is incredibly destructive. It's highly cytotoxic. It primarily serves to destroy any cells it comes in contact with. One wrong move on our part could absolutely lead to a deadly interaction for us. This is an animal that kills people here in Chile relatively frequently. In fact, they have the third highest kill count of any spider in the world. Hey bro, can you grab him actually? He's kind of in a precarious spot here between my fingers.
Yep. I got him.
Thank you. We always say having two handlers in these segments can be quite useful in scenarios like that. They're actually pretty common around here, and that's quite notable because they're so deadly. It's crazy to think that they really do exist this close to humans. What's really crazy though is how many of them there actually are, because you probably don't want to hear this, but these guys are not hard to find. Quite the opposite actually, they're super abundant in their range. And they occur in really high population densities too, so you're usually not seeing just one. And they can be found in almost any human-developed area in their range. Every year, there are hundreds of bites in Chile alone, and thousands more throughout their range. Now that varies significantly depending on what country or region you're looking at, and the data is lacking and often very uncertain. What we do know is that there are 9 official deaths attributed to the Chilean recluse, and studies that have come out have shown about a 4% mortality rate. And while that may sound kind of low, for a spider, that mortality is actually insanely high. And the truth is, there are probably hundreds or even thousands more total deaths, and we just don't know because the medical data is so critically underreported. And the real kicker is where this human-spider conflict is playing out. They are super prevalent in Chile, of course, but they're also found from Ecuador right across to Brazil. So they're found in most of the arid regions of South America. And the really scary part is they're spreading. The Chilean recluse has now been reported in the United States, Canada, Australia, and several parts of Europe. They're making their way around the world in shipments of plants and furniture coming out of South America. And because these spiders are used to a desert environment with little food, harsh conditions, and no water to speak of, they're able to survive long voyages on the ocean and set up in new buildings in other parts of the world, really without missing a beat. It seems to be that wherever humans have built our structures, Chilean recluses can make it work. And that's the exact experience that we had looking for them. They were way more common around people than out in the desert. And actually, in several days of intense searching, the only place we actually found them was around the house. This environment is incredibly challenging for them. And that actually leads us to the question that inspired this mission in the first place. Why is it that the world's deadliest recluse spider has learned to move in with people? What is their purpose for being here? To start off, you need to understand the lifestyle of these animals. In this region, the Chilean recluse has a local name, La Araña de Rincón, which means the corner spider, and that is actually a great indication of where Spencer found this individual. This species is known for living in dark, sheltered places where they're going to be protected from the harsh elements and the many predators that would eat a spider of this size. But they don't dwell there all night. This is a web-building species, but they're only using those webs as a refuge, especially during the day. They don't use them to hunt the way something like an orb weaver spider would. There we go, there's a bit of movement. They are absolutely capable of putting on a good burst of speed when they want to. We've seen several recluse spiders zip out of our sight before we could even get them in hand. They're called recluse spiders because of their reclusive habits, but when night falls and it comes time to hunt, they're gonna leave the shelter of their webs and start actively searching for their prey, which for a spider like this would primarily be insects, beetles, flies, moths, all kinds of things, basically anything they can capture with that incredible speed. This active lifestyle plays to the Chilean recluse's strengths, but it comes with a major trade-off. Searching out and chasing down their prey takes a lot of energy, and there's no guarantee that they'll get a return on that investment given how scarce food is out in the desert. But they need to keep their energy up, because in this environment, every chance to get a meal is a matter of life and death. Now that may sound extreme, but trust me, the Atacama is no ordinary desert. This is the driest true desert on Earth, so much so that some regions haven't gotten any rain since we've started measuring, and the lack of water means that plants really struggle to survive here. Fewer plants means that the ecosystem can't support nearly as many insects, which leads to much less prey being available for the spiders. And if the lack of food and water doesn't kill them, exposure to the Atacama's harsh elements just might. This barren desert offers very little shelter, which is a problem when conditions swing from blisteringly hot during the day to shockingly cold at night. And as if things weren't hard enough, there's no way for these spiders to escape. The mountains and ocean that surround Chile form huge barriers to natural dispersal, forcing the recluses that live here to adapt or die. It's sort of funny, but you can think about it as this environment is so challenging that even they don't want to be out here. Now, obviously, you can find these spiders out in the natural environment, but consider their habitat. They're living in dark, sheltered, out-of-the-way places where they're not going to deal with predators too much. That sounds to me exactly like your cupboard, your closet, the inside of houses. It's literally the perfect environment for them. Exactly, and there are even more advantages of being in human spaces. For example, they're climate controlled, they're permanent, and there are far fewer predators inside of your house than they would encounter out in the desert among all the rocks and logs that they would typically be using. They wouldn't be seeing the same sorts of reptiles and other predatory arthropods that they're dealing with out in their wild habitat. So really, it just makes sense for them to be using these structures that we created. We built right on top of their habitat, right? So they're just adapting to the conditions they're faced with, just like all animals do. But the reason we are handling this animal is to prove that that is the last thing they are interested in doing with their venom, because it is not a weapon that they use to fight off their threats. It is the critical tool that they rely on to survive life in the desert. And if they waste it on something like us that's far bigger than they could ever hope to eat, they would be out of the one resource they have to capture their prey, which out here in the desert is essentially a death sentence for the spider. But no one should interact with these animals. There is absolutely no benefit to trying to get close to one, especially to kill one, because that's the only time that they would ever think to use their venom on a person, as this clearly demonstrates. What we're doing right here represents the most extreme encounter you could possibly have with this spider. Even if one was living living in your house, you would never have it touching your bare skin like this of its own volition. Now that brings us to the crux of this point, because the truth is, these spiders are not going anywhere. They're going to continue utilizing human structures for as long as they exist, and eradicating them is simply not possible. They're just too abundant out here. So the onus is on us to learn how to coexist with these animals.
Exactly. This is the proof that living alongside these spiders is absolutely possible if we learn the habits that keep us safe around them. Remember where they're living. They're living in places where you won't see them first. So you have to get into the habit of checking before you touch things, before you reach your hand into places, or even put your clothing on. That's what we've been doing every day on this trip.
Literally, every morning we shake out our boots, we shake out our jackets. We just want to make sure that if there is a recluse that found its way into an article of clothing, we're not pressing it against our skin simply by putting it on. So it seems like a lot of work, but these are really simple habits that if you're living in the range of these spiders, if you just make it a part of your daily routine, it's very simple. It adds 5 seconds to your day, and it will keep both you and the spider perfectly safe.
That's why we dig so much into their biology and behavior. The way we reverse engineer their lifestyle to find them, you can do the same thing to avoid them. And the better you understand how they operate, the better you can keep yourself safe around them.
The game with recluses is preventing a situation where you touch one without seeing it. And if you know when and where they're likely to be, that becomes a lot easier. Remember, recluses are nocturnal and active predators. So that means you have to be more careful at night and know that they might pop up in places you don't expect.
Definitely, and they're also more active during the summertime, so you need to be even more vigilant during the warmer months. And keep in mind, they're going to be behind things, under multiple layers of cover.
These are important habits for anyone living alongside Chilean recluses to get into. And the thing is, there are recluses on every inhabited continent.
Over 100 species of them, by the way.
And these tips work for any of them.
And look, I get that the Chilean recluse is a pretty scary spider to have around, but they're a critical part of their ecosystem, and they're here with us to stay, so we have to get this right.
This video is part of our mission to document the world's most dangerous animals and help figure out ways for us to coexist with them. And a powerful way we've found to learn more about deadly animals is to study their relatives. As it happens, Chile is home to several species of recluse spiders, including one that has rarely ever been seen by people.
We picked up a lead on the elusive Vicente's recluse, a newly discovered cousin of the Chilean that could hold new secrets to living with these spiders. And if you want to see everything that we learned, check out this video to follow the full mission to track them down for the first time on YouTube.
And with that, we hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.